when do you think is the right time for scaling?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer. I always encourage people to really master one marketplace before you go branching into new marketplaces, because it's very easy to spread yourself very thin.
What do you think is the most complex category to start expanding?
Yeah, so I think food and food supplements. That's probably anything you put in your mouth or that that's going to be come into contact with humans.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rich Sellers Podcast. Today, I join in with two of the very famous people in Amazon community. And our topic for today is going to be how to scale your Amazon business. We're going to deep dive into a lot of aspects, going from how to expand in other marketplaces, going to how to expand your catalog, and a lot of stuff today. So before we jump in and discuss about the topic, we should start with a small introduction about our guest. So, Ral, do you want to start a small introduction with about yourself?
Yeah, sure, Sammy. Thanks, and it's great to be here. Really excited to be on this panel today. Just a short introduction. My name is Rael Lowenthal. I'm the Director of Business Development at Z. Essentially, we're a third-party service provider in the e-commerce space. We help brands across Amazon and others to expand and scale internationally by taking care of some of the back-end supply chain and compliance requirements, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more detail later on. Yeah, I've been with the company pretty much since day one, helped it get to where it is today, and yeah, looking forward to speaking about it a little bit more.
Oh, that's great. Eric, you want to start a small introduction about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Sammy. Appreciate you having me on as well. My name's Eric Castellano, and I operate Amazon Lit, which is not only one of the largest third-party Amazon companies in the United States, but also a consulting company, and we help guide people on their journey to scale out their business similar to the way we've done ours.
That's great. That's great. So when you talk about scaling your Amazon business, I mean, there have been a lot of questions from sellers itself that when is the right time to scale? Because when you talk about scaling, there's a lot of things. You can scale to other marketplaces, scale internationally to other marketplaces. Then you can also launch multiple products in your catalog to kind of scale your products as well. So when you talk about scaling, maybe Eric, you can take this. So when we are talking about scaling, when do you think is the right time for scaling? I mean, when is the right time to maybe increase your catalog size or to start expanding internationally?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer. I always encourage people to really master one marketplace before you go branching into new marketplaces, because it's very easy to spread yourself very thin, right? And before you know it, you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you're not focusing on one marketplace. So they're all not growing the way they should. So I always encourage focus on one marketplace first, really scale that up, right? By adding new suppliers, new products, new categories, and growing your current catalog to really get a firm understanding in the country that you're selling in before going to other countries. That's what I think you should be doing.
Yeah, Val, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think we've seen that with sellers. Our target really is to go after established merchants, guys that have really proven themselves in their home market. They've got stable supply chains. They've got a good catalog of products. They've got a recognizable brand. Before then being able to take their products overseas. And I think another thing to think about, before going internationally is, what actual product category are you in, and what products do you sell? And what I mean by that is it a homogeneous product globally? So just for example, if you're selling a light or an electronic product in the US and it's got a US plug, you can't just take that to the German or the UK market. That's not going to work, right? You're going to have to redesign your products, relabel them, etc. So I think when you're talking about scaling internationally, you've got to think about exactly what is your product. Is there a market for it in that international location? And then we can talk maybe a little bit more detail about what to think about once you're ready. But yeah, completely echo Eric's sentiment. Be established, know what you're doing in your home market, then look to scale internationally.
Yeah, I think you touched upon a few points like the complexities with expanding to international marketplaces. So let's talk about some categories, as for example, okay, bro, which category have you seen, Baral, that is most complex in order to expand? Because I'm assuming that, if let's assume it is a supplement brand, and when we go to other country, there might be a different regulations, government regulation in terms of labeling or certifications. So what do you think is the most complex category to start expanding? And then we talk about what is the easiest.
Yeah. So I think food and food supplements. That's probably anything you put in your mouth, or that that's going to
Hmm.
be come into contact with humans. I think that's or even pets. I think those are probably the most complex. But I think with complexity comes opportunity. So and what I
Yep.
mean by that is, if you're a supplement brand in the US, and you've got a unique product that no one else knows how to get into Germany or the UK, you can have quite a significant competitive advantage, when
Hmm.
entering that market. So I think, yes, there's complexity. If you're willing to go through the process, you could have a competitive advantage in the international market. When it comes to less complexity, I would say home and kitchen products, electronic accessories, not electronics themselves, but accessories that go with electronics.
Hmm.
Those are kind of the categories that are a little bit easier. As you go up the scale, pet products, baby products, those
Yep.
tend to sort of become a little bit more complex, and then it gets to like electronics, and then food and food supplements.
Got it. Yeah, I think that sounds good, because obviously with this products also, when we talk about foods or supplements, there is something that we also need to consider about the shelf life, then the shipping time. All these things needs to be considered as well. And if the seller is playing for a long time, he must already been considering all these things. And maybe Eric, you want to discuss and put some more points into it?
I think Ralph explained it perfectly.
Mhm.
I agree with his sentiment with the categories as far as complexity, 100%.
Yeah. So Eric, let's talk like this. Okay, so what would be the first marketplace choice for sellers? Let's assume they are selling in the US. What should be the first marketplace they generally choose based on the clients that you're handling? What do you think?
Oh man, I'm always a favor to Amazon only because it holds so much market share in the
Hmm.
United States,
Yep.
right? And we're finding now today, like even big brands, when they go into brick and mortar stores, the
Hmm.
Walmarts and Targets, and try to get their brand into these big brick and mortar stores, they ask, what's your Amazon sales? They want to know what type of volume you're doing on Amazon. So I think it's super important whether you plan on taking your product on Shopify, or another marketplace, to still have an established um, connection with your customers on Amazon as well, because you just get access to so many people, hundreds of millions of potential customers.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, and Ral, when we talk about scaling to international marketplace, what is sellers' number one choice on which marketplace they want to select?
Yeah, so I think because of Amazon's global infrastructure, um, that tends to be the number one choice because it's the most recognizable. Um, there are nuances with different countries
Mhm.
in terms of what's actually the dominant marketplace in that specific country. But there's kind of stuff to think about there as well, because there's some marketplaces like in Germany, for example, where you have to be a German-based business to register with the marketplace. In which case, then a US merchant or a UK merchant is kind of taken out of the picture. So I think when you're looking to go internationally, I think I would say the first thing to look at is what's the kind of customer traffic that's coming to those websites. And Amazon obviously pulls a
Mhm.
significant amount of market share internationally as well. If you're talking about the UK, Germany, Japan, those are kind of like the three biggest marketplaces outside of the US.
Yeah.
um, we also deal with clothing and retail merchants that find Zalando in Germany to be quite popular, with quite a lot of customer volume. So it also can come down to product category. Selling clothing on Amazon may not be the best choice, because that may not be the first choice where people go to buy apparel. But if you're talking like general consumer products, then Amazon's probably the best place to go. And then going a little bit further than that, if you're looking to kind of get to the local marketplace, like for example in the Netherlands, it's bol.com. You could also look there because Amazon doesn't necessarily have fulfillment centers in the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
yeah, it comes down to what is the country you're looking to target. Have you looked at what the top marketplaces are in those countries? Amazon's generally the best place to start because
Hmm.
generally speaking, if you're a US based Amazon merchant, you've got that experience with Amazon. So to get at least your logistics and fulfillment right to start within the country, it's best to start on Amazon and then to kind of look further from there, in terms of what are the local marketplaces that make sense as well.
Yeah, I think that was spot on. So, when we talk about scaling and when you talk about logistics, because logistics plays a very important role, right? So, when you talk about international expansion and logistics, what are the main challenges that sellers are facing right now? Eric, do you want to take it?
I would say this is probably better for Raul, considering
Okay.
he does tons of customs and you're moving goods internationally all the time. Correct? We actually stopped sending goods to other countries in Amazon just because the cost of shipping
Mhm.
in the past 18 months has been so high that we completely cut off all international shipments except for incoming for our private label products.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Ral, do you
so
want to take it?
yeah, I can touch on that. So I think when looking to sell internationally, logistics is probably one of the easier pieces to cover, because if you've got an established relationship with your, let's say, your manufacturer in Asia or wherever they might be, a lot of the time they have good logistics providers that can get your product from A to B. I think the
Hmm.
complexity where people fall short is on the customs compliance and the
Mm,
tax compliance, that are the requirements to get your goods into other countries. Um, our kind of bread and butter is what's known as an importer of record, and that allows an importer of record is really what allows a non-resident importer to get their goods through customs legally and in a compliant way. It's generally a legal requirement in most countries. So, and most freight forwarders don't want to dabble in that because there's
mm,
quite a lot of risk and liability that is associated with acting as an importer of record. So, like I say, logistics, there's tons of freight forwarders out there that can get your goods from A to B. That's not really the main issue. The main issue is getting the goods through customs and then making
mm,
sure that you're able to reclaim any refundable taxes, like import VAT, as an example, because that can be anywhere between 19 and 21% of the import value of your shipment. And if you
Yeah.
if you don't get that refund, that pretty much ruins your margins.
mm.
So I would say, like, when looking to send a product internationally, yes, logistics is one piece, and there's a lot of players out there that can fulfill that piece. But I think the thing that needs to be focused on specifically is what are the tax requirements and what are the customs
Hmm.
requirements. If you can fill those pieces, your customs and logistics processes will be pretty smooth.
Got it. Got it. Uh, Eric, what topic do you want to touch on? You want to touch on listing ads, or is there any other topic that you want to discuss on?
Well, with like just in general, as far as Amazon goes,
Okay.
I mean,
So,
I didn't have anything top of mind. No.
mhm. So can we talk about listing, like advertising, some strategies or anything like increasing visibility?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually we manage a few brand exclusives on Amazon for some
Hmm.
some very large international brands. And something we do recently is create some new listings, and we got to get them in front of the customer, right? So one of my go-tos for like a brand new listing to kind of put it in front is definitely running some PPC campaigns. I usually start with an auto campaign just to kind of get some traction. And then I usually run a coupon for 10 to 15 days, 10 to 14 days. And then when I turn off that coupon, I turn on a volume discount. So like buy one,
Okay.
get the second one 10% off, or buy one, get the second one 8% off, whatever the case may be. So this way the PPC drives customers to the listing, the coupon entices them to purchase, right, which drives the BSR down. And then after the coupon's removed, people continue to purchase with the volume discount, and that continues to drive the BSR. And that's worked pretty substantially for us for the past 2 to 3 years on getting listings to the first page rather quickly.
Yeah,
Eric,
I think that was,
Eric,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question for you on that. So when you're launching a new product, let's say for the first time, what do you advise your clients on in terms of how long you run that listing at a loss? So obviously, PPC will drive sales, but it comes at a significant cost, to the seller.
Yeah.
How long do you think, or how much investment is required in that listing from an advertising point of view until you reach the organic ranking, kind of inflection point where that listing becomes profitable?
Yeah, so if I'm spending money on a listing for more than 2 to 3 months and I'm not profitable yet, then I've worked every scenario into becoming profitable and maintaining at least some position on that first page, then I just cut it off. It's important to understand and cut your losses.
And what are the sort of softwares, or because Amazon, the back end of Amazon makes it quite difficult to understand. Sales great, you can see that anywhere, right? But they make it pretty difficult to understand. What is your per unit cost on an FBA level? What is your per unit cost on a referral level? What is your per unit cost on FBA fees? So, from an accounting point of view, how do you kind of manage that process?
Yeah. So we've actually built, just because of our size, we built our own internal software to do that. But what a lot of people who are newer or medium sized, they'll use softwares like Inventory Lab and connect it using A2X to QuickBooks. So like it instantly
Mhm.
pulls all those fees and documents it. So you have reporting through QuickBooks as well as reporting in Inventory Lab.
Got you.
Got it. Yeah, I think Eric, you touched on great points about the product launch. So we have been handling 60 plus brands right now globally, with almost 35 plus team members. And yeah, I think the strategy you set, obviously with Amazon, people have tried a lot of things, tricks, tips, tricks. Those are always there, right? But again, tricks are for a short time. Hacks, tricks, those are for short time. Again, yeah, the basics will remain the same. So we have tried a lot of things, starting from for supplement brands. So BOGO offer really works well. Like buy one get one free offer really works well,
Mm.
because we know that if we are stretching our ACOS at the front end, yes, we are getting new customers, but at the back end, we need to make sure our repeat purchase is high. So we have to make sure what is our total ACOS and what is the total, the ACOS running on over lifetime. I mean, the lifetime ACOS. So those are a few things when we talk about a supplement brand. Also about pricing, how we structure it during the launch is we generally keep the pricing very low. If the market is selling for, let's say, $29, we should start at $19 or something like that.
Mm.
And then we start, coupons will always be there because coupons drives high CTR. And Vine program, though it is costly, but we have to go through it, right? So Vine will be there. Again, it takes time to get some reviews, but as soon as we see some reviews, the CTR drastically increases and the conversion increases.
Yeah.
And slowly we start by raising the price by 20-30% depending on how much traffic we are getting in. And we have generally seen 3 to 6 months is a time period which a product takes to get to profitable range, with constant price increase, then dropping down the ACOS, then maintaining our proper tacos. But it is different when it comes to supplement brands or those brands where the repeat purchase is high, where the customer acquisition cost is very high. So I think that would be a couple of things that sellers could take down on. And moving on to the topic today. Okay. So what do you think, Erica, that how important, because when I'm assuming a seller tries to scale their business at a point when they're doing a sustainable number, a sustainable figure, okay, maybe 50 million, 10 million, whatever it is. And at that point, they must have a lot of SKUs in their catalog. And when it comes to a lot of SKUs, it requires customer service, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think how important customer service can be when they are trying to scale?
Yeah, well, I think customer service is important, but the beautiful thing specifically, and this is only because I'm primarily an Amazon seller, right? With FBA, there's very little to no customer service, right? But the fall point of Amazon and Seller Central is you don't
Mhm.
get any customer data, right? So it's important to build these brands off of Amazon as well, so you can begin to retarget and remarket the customers who haven't purchased. So I think customer support is integral. You know,
Mhm.
we have a two-team in-house customer support that kind of assists with our day-to-day right here, and they've been phenomenal for us. So I think it's important, especially if you're trying to really build a brand that customers begin to trust.
Yeah, I think that was spot on. So, Ral, you talked about, I think you have talked about the expansion in different marketplaces like Japan and all. We had a client and they are doing really good, okay, almost 25 million per year on Amazon.com. And they tried to scale in Japan. And Japan is a restricted marketplace, kind of restricted because you can't directly try selling it. Kind of, I think, same as Germany, India. So they kind of found their way out and got one importer who bought the products on behalf of them. Then they listed the products. So I think, what do you think that in terms of legal challenges like this, which marketplace can be the best fit? Because I think there are a lot of marketplaces right now starting on, like UAE, then a few new marketplaces that are starting on.
Mm.
Uh, when you talk about considering traffic and the less complexity of launching, what do you think if we have to name one particular marketplace?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 points here. So I'll answer your question in a minute. I think the real thing is, you know, when you're looking to introduce your products internationally, it's kind of a case of you don't know what you don't know. So
Mhm.
getting the
Mhm.
right people on board to advise you, whether that's internally or externally. You know, if you want to do it internally, then you need to allocate resources to do the research that's necessary before you start doing it. You know, we deal with a lot of inbound request where customers have sent their product, you know, without thinking too much about it, and then all of a sudden it's stuck at customs because, you know, the right ducks weren't put in place before the shipment
Mhm.
actually left. So I think, you know, each lane has its own complexity. I could probably speak for 3 hours about, you know, the nuances of each particular country, but I think overall the overarching theme is, if you're serious about, you know, launching your products internationally, get the research done, either with, you know, an internal person or with an external party like us, and that'll help you, you know, before you get there, so that there's no mistakes, you know, post sending a shipment.
Mhm.
To give you context, to Japan, that's probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult country to get product into. There's certain restrictions on certain categories for foreign importers in totality. So that merchant you were speaking about was probably trying to sell like food products or any food contact material, or
Yeah, yeah.
children's products for kids under the age of
They
6
were
or whatever
selling
the
coffee. They were selling coffee. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. So it's a food product, right? So that's why they had to find a buyer in Japan, because you have to have a Japanese-based business actually own the product at the point of import.
Mm.
There are categories outside of that that you can, as a foreign importer with an importer of record, get your goods through customs. Those are the general consumer product categories. But I think even further than that, you know, yes, there's complexity with import, but with Japan, Japanese customers will not purchase on Amazon if the listings are not in Japanese. So you
Mm.
try put an
Mhm.
English listing on Amazon.jp, you're going to get no sales. So translation and localization is probably one of the key factors with expanding internationally, and especially with Japan. You know, it can even go as simple as, let's say you want to expand to the UK and you're from the US. In the UK, English is spoken differently to the US. A simple example will be, if you have the word color in your listing, in the UK, it's spelled COLOUR. In the United States, it's spelled COLOR. So if you now go and list your product with COLOR in the UK, you're going to
Mhm.
miss out on all the search traffic, all the
Mhm.
paid ads. You're going to waste a lot of money. So even if it's in the same language, there are some nuances to take into account, and there's a lot of service providers out there that can help you with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was a great discussion. Also, I think Japan, also India. India is kind of similar in terms of Japan because India also has the similar restrictions, same as Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously, sellers want to get into India because of the high traffic.
Yeah.
So, what is the process look like? Like, if let's assume talk about Japan, what does the process look like? Let's assume I'm a seller in US. I want to list my product in or sell my product in Japan. Do you want to touch on this?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to kind of three things. What is the necessary tax registration? In Japan, it's called JCT, Japanese Consumption Tax. There's a certain threshold that's $90,000 before you are required to register. So you can start selling before having the registration. But if you're going to reach that $90,000 threshold pretty quickly, it's probably best advised to register from day one. The second thing with Japan is Japanese customs require shipments bound to Amazon to be valued at their retail price, excluding Amazon costs. So there's a punitive measure on the duties that get paid upon import. So something else to consider to see if you actually will be profitable. And then lastly would be, what category are you in? Are you in a restricted category? In which case, then it's not possible, or you have to find a Japanese buyer. If I can have a minute, I'll just touch on India for a second. You cannot
Yeah.
register to sell on Amazon in India without having an Indian business. So the only way to really sell your products in India is kind of two ways. One, you register an Indian business, and you can try and work that out. Alternatively, you find a buyer in India to buy and then sell your products on the platform.
Wow,
Got it.
so very similar to Japan. That's interesting.
Yeah, so similar. In fact, Japan is kind of less punitive than India. India is like a hard line. If you don't have an Indian entity, you cannot register as a seller. So there's I think two service providers out there that have that sell the products on your behalf. They have to actually take legal ownership of it. Yeah, I get, as a business owner, Eric, you can attest to this. You have to decide on an operating model that's optimal for you.
Yeah.
And certain countries have like certain strict requirements. If that doesn't fit your operating model, then it probably won't be worth your while. But if you're willing to explore different operating models like wholesale, then some of those more difficult marketplaces could be worth your while. But then you look to the UK and Europe, they have made a system, although it can be quite complex at times, but they have developed a system that allows foreign importers to actually sell product in those countries with the correct measures in place. And they are the sort of the second and third largest marketplace outside of the US. So generally, that's kind of where people look to start, at least to dabble in to begin with.
Yeah. So, guys, I think we are past 30 minutes already. So, it was an awesome discussion. But before we end, Eric, where can people find you?
Amazon lit anywhere, Instagram, Google, YouTube, wherever. And please send me a message. I want to meet you, talk to you. If you got any questions, I'm here to help. So thank you for having me, Sammy. I appreciate you. And Rail, man, the knowledge you dropped today was phenomenal. Appreciate having you as well. It was great.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
same here.
Eric, I follow you on Instagram. You got a great Instagram handle. So yeah, I would recommend anybody listening to the podcast give Eric a follow on Instagram. He's got some great content there. Yeah, especially the pictures of sales and increases. It's quite inspiring, actually. And then from my perspective, if you want to get in touch, obviously LinkedIn's a good place. You can contact me via email. It's Rael, so it's RAELL @zee.co. Also open to chatting. You're looking for international, come and talk to us. Let's see if we can advise you and make sure you got all the ducks in a row to get it done properly.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you guys so much, okay, for joining today. It was awesome to have you both here, okay. So we'll see you again. We'll probably have another podcast and get you both in, because international expansion is a hot topic going on right now, okay.